Well, fellow fans, here it is, the very first Sunday of the NFL season. We are at week one, officially. Thursday was the kickoff, obviously, between the Broncos and Ravens. And while I did pick the victor of that game, there's no way in hell that I saw that it was going to be that big of a blowout. That was a revenge game of epic proportions. Let's just say that they, being the Broncos, were seething still. They were still stewing in that overtime playoff loss. And they exercised some straight up demons on the Baltimore Ravens. Peyton Manning looked like he was out there playing on Madden easy mode. The man threw for 7 touchdowns, a feat that hasn't been achieved since 1969. That goes to show you how rare it is. He's one of 6 now that have accomplished that feat. That game, for the first half, was close. And then the second half, it became Macaulay Culkin ugly. And it just went downhill after John Harbaugh decided not to challenge an incomplete pass that hit the ground that Wes Welker didn't catch. He did not catch the ball, and you would think that they would go ahead and get the challenge flag up. They didn't. Sure enough, it just became a touchdown frenzy for Peyton and company. So, yeah. Well, I did get that right. I don't think anybody could have seen that coming. So, having said all that, today is Sunday, September 8th, 2013, which means we are officially at week 1 for the rest of the NFL. So, of course, what do? I give you my analysis and my picks. If you've been following my blog last year, you know what I do. If you're brand new to my blog, this is what I do. Of course, take a slate of all the games, take notes, and make my picks. It's that simple. So, without further ado, let's get started. First game is the New England Patriots visiting the Buffalo Bills. Now, for the Patriots, there wasn't too much going on for that organization over the offseason, was there? No, not at all. I mean, they only lost Wes Welker, and Gronkowski only had surgery for like the 5th time. And there's that whole Aaron Hernandez thing. That really wasn't that major at all, was it? Nah, who am I kidding? Aaron Hernandez got the Chris Benoit treatment. And if you don't know what the Chris Benoit treatment is, Chris Benoit, professional wrestler, man that killed his wife, killed his child, and killed himself. After all that went down, the WWE completely erased him from their history books, making no acknowledgement of his existence in their history, their matches, their pay-per-views, nothing. Well, Aaron Hernandez, when he got hit with this murder charge, the NFL, if you go on NFL.com, and you look at Aaron Hernandez and you look at his career stats, you will find absolutely nothing. They scrubbed him from the history books. They wanted absolutely nothing to do with him when more and more information became known to the public about his situation. And whenever you're on national TV and you're being arrested, basically when they stage a perp walk on you, yeah, it's a wrap. And I've got to say, what a dumbass. Now, I've called Dez Bryant and Justin Blackmon dumbasses, but nobody's reached the dumbass level of Aaron Hernandez. Not since the days of Ray Caruth. And yeah, look that name up if you don't remember him. So, having said all that, yeah, I think the Patriots had a lot of issues over the offseason. Like I said, Wes Welker's now a Patriot, which you all saw on Thursday. They bring in Danny Amendola, who was Sam Bradford's security blanket, his Linus, if you will, when it came to completing passes. So you substitute one slot receiver for another. Only thing is, can this man stay healthy? Gronk, which I mentioned, Gronkowski, if you will, this man has had surgery after surgery. Yes, he is a dynamic tight end, but ever since he hurt his forearm, helping out on special teams, he hasn't been the same since. And of course, he's not going to suit up and play for the Patriots today. Then of course, it's Aaron Hernandez. He's got that whole murder charge to deal with. So the Patriots are going to be looking brand new, totally different. Now, looking at my notes here, basically you better know these names because as long as Tom Brady's back there, he's going to get his numbers. And the Patriots, they have a system. They have a very, very stout system. It's a machine. They plug and play people. So, once again, you're going to find some no-namers who are going to be made into names by Tom Brady, a la Peyton Manning. So, for receivers, you look at Kimbrell Tompkins. You've also got Aaron Dobson, and you've got Zach Sudfeld. Get to know those names, folks, because Tom Brady is going to make them famous. Now, in the history of this contest between the Bills and the Patriots hold a distinctive edge. They're 64-41-1 all time, and they have won 3 straight, and they've won 18 of 19. Outside of a blip in 2011, the Patriots have straight dominated the Bills. Now, for the Buffalo Bills, it's a new era for them. They brought in a new head coach, Doug Marrone, former Syracuse head coach, and they're starting an era anew with a rookie QB, the only rookie QB that was drafted in the first round this year in E.J. Manuel, QB out of Florida State. And there were some concerns that he wasn't going to be ready because he had a minor knee injury. They thought Kevin Kolb was going to be the one to step up, but he had another concussion. He's done for the season. Quite frankly, he may be done for his career. So the Bills organization, the Bills fans got a sigh of relief when it was announced that E.J. Manuel will start today, because they almost had it to where they were going to have an undrafted QB in Jeff Toole start for them, and that would have been interesting. But for Bills fans, their number one pick of the 2013 NFL Draft will suit up, and he will be starting. So you look at the Bills, and they're also going from a 4-3 to a 3-4, if I'm not mistaken. So for them to match up with the Patriots, I mean, it's gonna be quite the task because they're implementing a new defensive scheme, and they're starting a rookie QB. So they're gonna lean heavily offensively on guys like C.J. Spiller, and really C.J. Spiller. There is nobody else outside of unproven rookies that can really carry the load offensively. So C.J. Spiller is gonna get a lot of touches. If you drafted this man in your fantasy football league, you better start him, because E.J. Manuel is going to be looking at him as a security blanket. Because not only is E.J. Manuel a rookie that's going to be starting, they also have second-round pick Robert Woods, wide receiver out of USC, and Marquise Goodwin, rookie out of Texas. So it's going to be a young team they're going to be fielding against one of the NFL juggernauts in the New England Patriots. Now, defensively, the Bills are hoping that Mario Williams can get back on track. He's going back into a scheme that he's familiar with when he was in Houston, so he's going to be playing outside linebacker instead of having his hands down as a defensive end. But you also got to look at, they have Mario Williams, they have Marcel Darius, they have Kyle Williams, who is a very stout defensive lineman, and Jarius Byrd, which, if I'm not mistaken, this man might not play. If I'm reading my notes correctly, plantar fasciitis, foot injury, and also this man wants more money. This man wants an extended contract. He's not too happy playing on a $9 million franchise tender. So be on the lookout for that. New England, of course, Tom Brady. They still have Shane Vereen. You know, like I said, the names I mentioned, and Tompkins, Dobson, and Sudfeld, get to know them. And Mendola, that's another guy that Brady's going to be leaning heavily on. And, of course, you know Tom Brady. He's made a living getting big numbers out of no-name receivers and tight ends. So, defensively for the Patriots, Vince Wilfork is still plugging up the middle. And Devin McCourty in the back, in the secondary. Chandler Jones, who is hoping to regain his early season form from last season. He was battling some injuries near the end of the season. So he gets healthy, he stays healthy. The Patriots will have a much better defense. Then, of course, the linebackers in Gerard Mayo and Brandon Spikes. So, of course, my pick, who else am I going to go with? The ones who've won 18 of 19, the Patriots. The Bills are starting a brand new regime, a brand new era. And while the Patriots are without three of their well-known pass catchers, one on another team, one on the sideline, the other in jail, it's still the Patriots, and it's still that system. Belichick and Brady still run that team. So, picking the Patriots. Simple as that. Now, moving on, we have the Seattle Seahawks traveling back to North Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. Now, last season, Panthers took an L to the Seahawks at home, 16-12. Very sloppy game, but defensively, Seahawks just manhandled them. Now, the Seattle Seahawks, trendy pick this year. There's always that trendy pick. For the longest time, it was the Texans. A couple seasons under Singletary. It was the 49ers. Now, it's the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks have a second-year signal caller who took the league by storm, if outside of RG3 and Andrew Luck. Russell Wilson. And if anybody followed Russell Wilson at North Carolina State, followed him at Wisconsin, you knew this kid was a baller. And then he gets drafted third round by the Seahawks. The Seahawks paid money to bring in Matt Flynn, thinking he was going to be the signal caller. Then all of a sudden in the 2012 preseason, Russell Wilson he takes over. So Pete Carroll had no choice but to give him the spot. Worked out great. 11-5 season, was a field goal away from playing an NFC Championship last year. And last 5-6 games of the regular season, they dominated, including the Week 16 matchup with the Niners that obviously put them even further on the map. And I guarantee you that game alone is the reason why a lot of people are picking them not only to win the NFC West, but to actually win the NFC and to make the Super Bowl. So you look at the Seahawks, and like I said, Russell Wilson, kid's a baller. He has command of that offense, and it's going to be interesting to see how Pete Carroll will let him actually play, because Pete Carroll took the training wheels off of him in the second season, so now it's the full season. He's just going to let him loose. So you look at offensively for the Seahawks, you have Russell Wilson. You have beast mode and Marshawn Lynch. And you have a backfield that's one of the best. The two best backfield committees in the NFL reside in the NFC West. The Seahawks and the 49ers. The Seahawks with Marshawn Lynch, Robert Turbin, and now they picked up another could-be stout running back in Christian Michael from A&M. You look at Zach Miller, the tight end, who put up some big numbers, especially in that playoff game against Atlanta. So Russell Wilson has chemistry with that man. Of course, Golden Tate, Doug Baldwin, Sidney Rice. He's coming off of knee surgery, so he's looking to come back and contribute. But with Sidney Rice, you know, it's going to be a couple games in, couple games out, couple games in, couple games out. Speaking of couple games in, couple games out, they picked up Percy Harvin. Big splash. It's almost like Seattle and Minnesota have like this pipeline to each other, because it's like the Seahawks picked up Sidney Rice from Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings, they picked up Chad Hutchinson from Seattle. And then now you have Seattle picking up Percy Harvin from Minnesota. So you got another pipeline connection like that. However, Percy Harvin is going to be out for the first 6-7 weeks of the season with an injury. So they don't even get to utilize his services. And as explosive as he is, the man's damaged goods. So, like Sidney Rice, be careful what you get from him. If you have him fantasy-wise, yeah, good luck. But that's their offense. Defensively, one of the most dangerous defenses in the NFL. You know, you have guys like Bruce Irvin. Oh, my bad. He's suspended for the first, 2 to 4 games of this season. But when he comes back, he'll be ready. Bobby Wagner. You know, guys that fly to the ball. And then, of course, the best secondary in the NFL, the Legion of Boom, of Brandon Browner, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, and a little-known, very quiet, very shy guy in Richard Sherman. Sarcasm ended. But that secondary is lethal. You have big physical corners. You have a ball-hawking free safety and a physically nasty strong safety. So the Seahawks, they're loaded for bear. They have built their team. They have built their team for the long haul. Like, they're ready to move to the next level. So, having said that, we'll move to the Panthers. Carolina Panthers, 7-9 last season. They turned it up in the second half of the season. Cam Newton, third season in, firm command of that offense. But the main storyline, this is Ron Rivera's make or break season, because last year there was talk and murmurs and rumors that was going to be Ron Rivera's last season. But he was able to convince the Panthers front office to give him one more chance. And yes, the Notorious B.I.G. song just started playing in my head as soon as I said that. But Ron Rivera knows that he needs to have a 9-7, 10-6 season. He needs to look at getting into the playoffs with this team. And Cam Newton, one of the dynamic QBs that come out of the 2011 draft, Rookie of the Year in 2011. You know, he's got his work cut out for him. He's still got Steve Smith to sling the rock to. But it's really contingent upon who's going to be the number 2 receiver outside of him. Because Brandon LaFell hasn't really, taken hold of the number 2 receiver spot. They brought in Ted Ginn. Good luck with that. Dominic Hickson from the Giants. They really have a ragtag squad. They don't really have a stout number 2. Running back wise, Jonathan Stewart's hurt. D'Angelo Williams is going to have to take up the slack. Mike Tolbert, guys like that. And tight end wise, they still have Greg Olsen, who is one of middle tier to second tier tight ends in the league. Defensively, you look at their defensive rookie of the year, Luke Kuechly, and if you watch him in the preseason, this kid's a stud. Straight up. There's a reason he was picked in the first round by the Panthers. And they run a 4-3, so he now has firm control of the middle of the Mike linebacker slot. He's going to be flying all over that field, a la Patrick Willis in 2007, in that kind of mode, in that kind of frame. He has a nose for the ball. As soon as he doesn't hesitate, he makes plays. So they have a lot to look forward to with him, on defense. Star Latui, I hope I said his last name right. Controlling in the defensive front. They've had some young stars. Main concern is that secondary, though. And of course, I forgot to mention the head-to-head all-time record history between these two. The Seahawks are 4-2 against this team all-time, and they've won the last 2. So for my pick, I'm not picking Seattle. I'm picking Carolina. I think at this point, this is my upset for the day. I think that what happened last season, how close it was, there were some drop passes, there were some missed opportunities. I think the Panthers seized that opportunity. It's going to be close. It's going to be another one of those less than 5-point differential games. I think the Panthers eke this one out. I think there's going to be 19-14, something along that line. But I'm picking the Panthers. Next up, we have the Bengals and Bears. Cincinnati at Chicago. Excuse my voice, folks. And pardon me, a little bit of water here. There we go. Cincinnati Bengals at the Chicago Bears. Now, this all-time record, the Bengals are 6-3 all-time against the Bears. And Chicago has lost 4 or 5 to the Bengals. Speaking of the Bengals, Andy Dalton, A.J. Green. You know those names. You know that connection. Two of the young dynamic playmakers in the NFL, both coming out of the 2011 draft. And they definitely made a name for themselves. And I'm definitely excited to see their progress and to see them grow into a duo that, is along the likes of Stafford and Megatron and, guys like that. And also, they have a rookie running back that they're going to be, bringing into grooming and making the next one, and Giovanni Bernard. And obviously, if you watch them in Hard Knocks on HBO, they're really high on bringing this kid in and making him a contributor to their offense. Because you look at him offensively, You look at Andy Dalton. You look at A.J. Green. You look at BenJarvus Green-Ellis, Giovanni Bernard. You look at their tight end situation, which they brought in. They brought in, a tight end from Notre Dame to help out more with the offense. I'm kind of looking at that. Of course, a two tight end set, kind of like what the Patriots ran with Gronk and Hernandez. But also, I think this is pushing Jermaine Gresham. This is a challenge to him because now he has to look over his back because this kid, Tyler Eifert, that's his name. Sorry, Tyler Eifert. This kid can make some catch. I mean, he has great hands. I mean, he's a big physical tight end. And, those are the kind of guys that will snatch your spot. So, Jermaine Gresham, good luck. Look out. Defensively for the Bengals, they have one of the more underrated defenses in the league, which is led by somebody who I think should get a lot more praise for his work and his accomplishments, over the last couple seasons. That's Geno Atkins, defensive tackle. Of course, he got paid. He got an extension, so he got money well deserved because he anchors a defense that is really very underrated. Him, D'Amato Pekka, you have guys like Leon Hall. Basically Marvin Lewis has taken misfit toys and made a go. Because, you have Terrence Newman, you have Pac-Man Jones, who everybody wrote off. But he's made this defense work. I mean, hell, they've made the postseason the last 2 seasons. And it's no coincidence that Andy Dalton and A.J. Green had something to do with that because they came into the league in 2011. That was the first time the Bengals have been in the postseason in the last couple seasons. Then they made it back to the playoffs last season with that same crew and that defense. Granted, they took an L to the Texans both times, but still, for a team that's been known as the Bungles and a team that's been a joke in the league, for years and years and years, that's impressive. And a lot of that has to do with that defense as well. So, the Bengals, who are a sleeper pick to take the AFC North, they are a pick to make the postseason, but they are a sleeper to take control of the AFC North. And if the Ravens don't get it together, like you saw in that Thursday night game, Pittsburgh being in the situation that they are with their aging team and and their running back committee injured and the loss of Mike Wallace, you look at the Browns, who are the Browns. I'm sorry, but they're the Browns. The Bengals have a shot to take that AFC North again. So look out for that. On the other side of the ball, you have the Chicago Bears, who are bringing in a new head coach after letting Lovie Smith go. How you let a coach go after going 10-6? That's beyond me. But if you remember, the Bears started out 7-1, end up losing 5 of their last. They ended up losing 5 of their last 8 games. They went 3-5 down the stretch, and got knocked out because the Vikings and the Packers made the postseason, and the Bears had another second half collapse. And it usually starts when Jay Cutler gets hurt. Jay Cutler gets hurt, that team goes to crap. But now, Lovie Smith out, bring in Mark Trestman. Mark Trestman, if that name doesn't sound familiar, is because this man was in the CFL. This man was the head coach of the Montreal Alouettes, won 2 straight Grey Cups with them. So they're bringing in a new look, a new coach from an entirely different league, literally. So it's going to be something interesting to watch. Also, this is Jay Cutler's contract season. This is his final year, so he needs to show and prove to the front office that he is the signal caller for the Chicago Bears. He is their QB. And, of course, with Brandon Marshall by his side, hey, sky's the limit for him. The main thing is that offensive line. That offensive line has been a sieve for the last couple seasons. They finally got rid of Jamarcus Webb, who was just absolutely horrendous. So hopefully that should help them out. But the thing is that Cutler knows that this season is make or break for him contract-wise, especially if he wants to stay a Chicago Bear. Now, of course, you look at Jay Cutler, of course, Brandon Marshall, Matt Forte, and they brought in Martellus Bennett, who was from Dallas, played for the Giants, and now he's a Bear. So he's looking for a fresh start as well. And then, of course, Alshon Jeffrey, their pick from South Carolina a couple seasons ago. looking to stay healthy, and if he can emerge, then they have a stout 1-2 punch, two big physical receivers to make plays down the field. Defensively, Brian Urlacher rode off into the sunset, retired, he's done. So you have him gone. So now Lance Briggs is really the anchor, the captain of that defense. And he's going to have to help groom rookie linebacker John Bostic in that middle linebacker spot now. But all is not lost for Bears fans defensively. They still have Julius Peppers, like I said, the aforementioned Lance Briggs, and they still have Peanut Tillman, who is the Megatron stopper. Like, Calvin Johnson has the worst luck with this man. So if you have a guy that can shut down one of the most elite players in the National Football League the way Tillman does, you'll be fine. And he's a freaking ball hawk. He's a ball snatcher too. Pause. He will rip the ball out of your hands. He will strip the ball. Like, he has a nose for just punching the ball out of a ball carrier's hands. So all is not lost, like I said. So who am I picking in this? Yes, they lost 4 or 5 to this team. Yes, they have a poor record against this team all time. But I'm picking the Bears. I think that they have a legit chance. I think being at home, first game of the season, they like to show out. They like to show out in their first home game. And this will be a good start for Jay Cutler and Mark Trestman, that new era. I think that Julius Peppers gets to that backfield and gets a couple sacks. I think Peanut Tillman causes a turnover. I think defensively, I like the matchup of the Bears at home versus the Bengals in this one. So I'm picking the Bears. Pardon me again. Ladies and gentlemen, water is the official sponsor of this video cast. So Miami versus Cleveland, Dolphins versus Browns. All-time head-to-head matchup here. Miami holds the slight edge all time. Miami is 9-8 against Cleveland. But the funny thing is, Cleveland has won 4 straight. Isn't that interesting, folks? But that's life. For the Dolphins, this is Joe Philbin looking to establish himself in an AFC East that is not really wide open, but it's not as open and shut as it has been in years past. Of course, Ryan Tannehill, this is firmly his team. This is his squad. And what did the front office of the Dolphins do? They went out and got him a brand new toy. That's right, the Dolphins went out, spent big money bringing in free agents, and none bigger than Mike Wallace, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for Tannehill, he has a burner. And if anybody watched Mike Wallace at Pittsburgh, you know he likes to go deep. He likes to just spread the field. He will launch and take off. So for Tannehill, this is awesome because you got to remember Tannehill was making plays with Brian Hartline. No disrespect to Brian Hartline, but if you have him as your number one, you don't have a really good receiving core. They lost Devon Best, so now having Mike Wallace there, Brian Hartline can slide into Devon Best's slot. No pun intended. But Mike Wallace is a huge acquisition for them. They brought in Dannell Ellerbe from the Ravens. They brought in Dustin Keller, but he ain't playing this season, unfortunately, due to a vicious hit to his knee. So they'll have to do without his services this season. But the Dolphins offensively, Tannehill, Mike Wallace, Brian Hartline, and Lamar Miller, who took over the reins after the Dolphins let Reggie Bush go to greener pastures. He's now a Detroit Lion. So it's going to be Lamar Miller and Daniel Thomas carrying the load. More Lamar Miller, because Daniel Thomas really didn't seize control of that running back spot. Lamar Miller just snatched it from him. Defensively, you have one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and Cameron Wake. So you have Cameron Wake, and then they spent with their number one pick in the 2013 NFL draft. They picked up Deion Jordan, kind of an outside linebacker, defensive end hybrid from Oregon, speedy rusher. Now, if you get Cameron Wake on one end, and if they can bring Deion Jordan up to speed, and he plays like they feel he can play, you have some dangerous bookends for the Miami Dolphins pass rush. It's that simple. They can create Cameron Wake is a handful on his own, but then you bring Deion Jordan up to speed, and you got some problems. On the other side of the ball, you have the Cleveland Browns, who are also bringing in a new era, and they have a new head coach in Rob Chudzinski, former offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. They also brought in a new offensive coordinator in Norv Turner, formerly head coach of the San Diego Chargers. And they also brought in a new defensive coordinator in Ray Horton, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals. Now for Ray Horton, this was him basically telling the Arizona Cardinals front office to basically go to hell, because they essentially passed him over for the head coaching job and gave it to Bruce Arians, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts. The Cardinals fans and the Cardinals players figured that once Whisenhunt was out, that it was going to be Horton's job to take. Cardinals screwed him over, so he said, "Screw you." So now he's going to go run the defense for the Cleveland Browns. Offensively, this is Brandon Whedon's second year. Of course, the QB situation for the Browns has been nasty for the longest time, ever since Derek Anderson's 2007 season. After that, it's just been downhill from there. They haven't really had any luck or success with the QB situation. Of course, they let Colt McCoy bump. He's now the backup QB for the 49ers. So now it really is Brandon Whedon's show. And for Brandon Whedon, he knows that he's going to have to rely heavily on Trent Richardson, another rookie from last season, rather, in his second year. They also have to rely on Greg Little. And I don't know, man. His hands are... that man has hands like frying pans sometimes. More often than not, actually. Then, of course, Josh Gordon, who they're going to be without for a couple games due to suspension. And then they have a tight end that I think is going to be somebody that's going to have a really nice breakout season in Jordan Cameron. You watched him in preseason. Everybody's like, oh, it's preseason. But you watched him play. Jordan Cameron was out there balling. And I like him. Heck, I picked him in my fantasy league as my tight end. Oh, look, squirrel. Sorry. But I think Jordan Cameron is poised to have a big year. And I think Brandon Whedon will be lucky to have him to really spread the ball around. Because, a tight end is a QB security blanket, straight up. Defensively, they picked up Barkevious Mingo in the first round. He's coming off of an injury, and they're concerned of whether or not he's going to play today. But Joe Hayden, one of the best young corners in the league. So you got Joe Hayden, and like I said, Ray Horton is their defensive coordinator, and he's the same guy that turned the Cardinals defense into one of the top 10 defenses in the league in the last couple seasons. So if he can bring his magic over to Cleveland, watch out. Phil Taylor, controlling the middle, as far as nose tackle, there's a chance for them. They have a chance to. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to, take the league by storm, but they'll look a hell of a lot better than they did last season. An offensive coordinator in Norv Turner, who made Alex Smith look good in his second season. Norv Turner is a much better offensive coordinator than he is a head coach. I'll just put it that way. So, having said all that, who's my pick? I like Cleveland, but I'm picking Miami. I think Miami just has a little bit more firepower, and it's more established. The head coach, the offensive coordinator, more established. Cleveland Browns, new regime. It's going to take a couple weeks to really fully gel for them. So, I'm picking Miami. I think Tannehill and Mike Wallace go deep. I think Lamar Miller is gonna get his yards. He's gonna get his yards. I think Trent Richardson for the Browns, he's gonna make some big plays, but I think Whedon is still gonna be playing that hesitant ball like he did last season. It's like I said, it's still gonna be a couple weeks before that Browns offense defense gels officially. So having said that, picking the Dolphins. Next, we have an NFC North divisional battle already. We have the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions. Now, for the Vikings, it was all about Peterson. It was all about all day. Adrian Peterson. 9 yards short of breaking the NFL rushing record season, breaking the NFL rushing record. He basically carried that team into the playoffs. He put that team on his back because Christian Ponder sucked. Peterson took that team to the postseason. He said, put him on his back, rushed for over 2,000 yards. They go 10-6 and they make the playoffs. They made the playoffs in spite of Christian Ponder, which this is Christian Ponder's third season. This is the year he has to step up. Otherwise, the Vikings will be spending their first pick in the NFL draft on a QB. So they bring in Greg Jennings, former Packer. So so they went ahead and plucked the enemy. Plucked a player away from their mortal enemy in the Packers. And Greg Jennings is one of the top receivers in the NFL. So you bring him in. They draft Cordarrelle Patterson. So they want to build a receiving core because they lost Percy Harvin. Well, I wouldn't say lost. They just felt like he just wasn't worth it anymore. And they haven't really had a stout receiving core. Not since the days of Moss. It's been that long. And of course, they have Peterson, who is everybody's number one pick fantasy football wise. He is everything advertised. He is the best running back in the NFL. Like he's a beast. He is an elite player. When you look up the word elite, there's Peterson, bald head, smiling, because he is. So for the Vikings to do anything, it's going to be contingent upon him having a big season. This man wants to be the only running back in NFL history to have rushed for 2,000 yards in back-to-back seasons. He is that determined. So for the offense, it's about Christian Ponder actually stepping up and not f***ing up. You have Greg Jennings. You have Cordarrelle Patterson. You have Kyle Rudolph. You have offensive weapons. There's no excuse from here on out, Christian Ponder. It's all on you. And Leslie Frazier knows that. Defensively, they still have Jared Allen, one of the most feared pass rushers in the league. They still have him. As long as he's there, he's still going to be a problem. E.J. Henderson, they still have him. Matter of fact, they have second-year safety in Harrison Smith from Notre Dame. This kid's a hawk. So they have pieces put together. They went 10-6. Like I said, they went 10-6 in spite of their QB. Now they need to make it to the next level because of their QB. Everybody knows that Peterson is going to be the man. Ponder now knows he has to step up and take it to the next level. So, having said that, the Detroit Lions. Now, you want to talk about the more disappointing teams of 2012? Look no further. The Detroit Lions. They went 10-6 in 2011, made the postseason for the first time since '99. So you're thinking, okay, yeah, they got it in place. Jim Schwartz has got this team ready to go. You've got Stafford, you've got Megatron, you've got Ndamukong Suh. You've got a team that's ready to take the next step. And then, splat, 4-12. Yes, Megatron, Calvin Johnson broke Jerry Rice's single season for receiving yards record and almost hit the 2,000-yard mark. But that's all Stafford had. Stafford had no other receivers. Titus Young was a total moron, so they had to let him go. He's getting arrested left and right. Ryan Broyles hurt his other knee. He came into the league already having a torn ACL. He tears the other one last year. Nate Burleson breaks his leg. So who else did Stafford have? Running back-wise, Mikel LaSure had glimpses, but they don't really have a strong running game. And then their secondary was just atrocious. Their defensive front, penalty after penalty, unsportsmanlike conducts left and right, an undisciplined team. Yeah, 4-12. That's what you deserve. So Jim Schwartz is now on the hot seat officially, because they want to see if that 4-12 season was just a blip or a sign of things to come. So you look at the Lions. So yeah, what did they do? They pick up Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush, last couple seasons, 1,000-yard seasons, he helped the Saints win a Super Bowl. He isn't the dynamic player that everybody thought he was going to be when he was the number 2 pick, but he is actually starting to step up and be an in-between the numbers runner. And of course, he's most dangerous as a backfield receiver. You hit him on swing passes, get him in open space, let him do work. The Lions feel like they need that. They need him to be what they felt Javed Best should have been if it wasn't for his concussions and injuries, which now he's retired because of that. Again, Stafford, who set the NFL record for most pass attempts, outside of Calvin Johnson, he needs somebody to step up in that receiving corps. Can Ryan Broyles do it? He has to stay on the field. Can Nate Burleson get back to being that number 2 receiver or that big play third down receiver? Got their work cut out for him. Pettigrew, he needs to step up. He needs to take it to the next level. Defensively, they picked up Ezekiel Ansah from BYU. They need this kid to be an edge rusher because the one thing the Detroit Lions have been lacking, severely lacking for the longest time, is an edge rusher. And they know that, so they went ahead and picked up Ansah from BYU. And then, of course, you have inside the defensive tackles inside, Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley. These two feel like that they could be the best front defensive tackles in the league. They feel like that they have the best front four in the NFL. If only they could stop being boneheads, sitting here getting unsportsmanlike conduct penalties and just making dumb mistakes. If they could play to their talent and actually get their heads together, then yeah, they can make that case. Secondary-wise, they're still going to be hurt. They're still going to be in a lot of trouble because that's something they did not address in the offseason or in the draft. Outside of Louis Delmas, you could throw deep on them. I mean, you could sling the rock on the Detroit Lions secondary. And their linebacking crew isn't all that stout either. So it really is contingent upon that front four. Straight up. So having said all that, you look at the all-time record. Minnesota has a strong history of kicking the Detroit Lions' ass. 68, 33, and 2 all-time. And they swept them last year. So, of course, I'm picking the Minnesota Vikings in this. I really don't believe outside of Stafford and Megatron, they don't have enough firepower to keep up with anybody in the league. And I think this is Jim Schwartz's last season. That whole water. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Jim Schwartz. That whole, his mantra and how it's spilling over to his players. That's not gonna cut it. It's not gonna cut it in the NFL. You letting these players run wild and play undisciplined football. And it's going to continue. Yeah, Stafford and Megatron, they're going to get their numbers. Reggie Bush is going to get his numbers, his touches as well. But that team is not ready. And they won't be ready until they get a head coach that can keep that team together and disciplined. So, yeah, I'm picking the Vikings. I don't care if Detroit's at home. Yeah, I'm picking the Vikings all day. Double entendre. Don't ask me how. All right. Moving forward here, let me go to my handy-dandy notebook now. That's what I'm doing here. The Oakland Raiders travel to Indianapolis to take on Andrew Luck and the Colts. For the Oakland Raiders, God. Good God Almighty. Good God Almighty. That team is a dumpster fire. And they're bringing in, well, they're not even bringing in. They've made it official that because their quarterback committee is so terrible and Matt Flynn loses again, Terrell Pryor will be starting at QB for the Oakland Raiders today. Terrell Pryor of Ohio State fame. Terrell Pryor of the supplemental draft. Terrell Pryor who openly admitted he never knew how to really officially throw a football as a quarterback. So they're going to go into this season hoping that he can give them a spark. I'm going to keep this short and simple. I think they're clowning for clowning. I think they're going underwater for Bridgewater. The Oakland Raiders will be a top 3 pick next year in next year's draft. Straight up. I have nothing good to say about them. I'm sorry. But that whole organization, everybody thought that it was going to get better for the Raiders because Al Davis had passed. God rest his soul. And yes, he had way too much. He had control of that team way too long. But they don't have really much anything in place right now. And so for the Indianapolis Colts, yes, Chuck Pagano, God, saying that last name is awesome, took this team and they overachieved. They made the postseason with a rookie QB, and what would they go 10-6, 11-5? Yeah, regardless, they made the playoffs with a rookie QB. Andrew Luck is the truth though. Don't get it twisted. Andrew Luck is the truth. He is the franchise QB. He is the heir to Peyton Manning. Straight up. They have a receiver in T.Y. Hilton who I think is going to have a breakout year. So look out for him. Also, Reggie Wayne is still there. So you still have one of the best receivers to ever play the game still lining up for the Colts. Kobe Fleener, Andrew Luck's teammate in Stanford, security blanket. So who am I picking? Of course I'm picking the Colts. For goodness sake. The Raiders really just don't have anything. Sorry. Just keep it simple like that. And yes, Oakland's 8-6 all time against the Colts, but the Colts have won 3 straight, and it's going to be 4. Colts. Kansas City at Jacksonville. New era, new regime at Kansas City. Got rid of Pioli. They got rid of Cornell. It's Andy Reid's show now. And Andy Reid went ahead and did what all Kansas City Chiefs front office and coaches do. They raid the 49ers QB bin. So who is calling the plays for the Chiefs now? One Alex Smith, who basically took a concussion and lost his job. And now you say it like it's harsh? No. He took a concussion to the head. Kaepernick came in. Kaepernick balled out. That was it. That was the end. And Alex Smith knew it. And there was no way the 49ers were going to keep a backup QB making $8.5 million. Cushy job, but they weren't trying to see it like that. So, of course, the Chiefs, they need a QB because Matt Castle was trash. Brady Quinn, trash. I mean, they've had trash at QB. So, Jim Harbaugh rebuilt Alex Smith, built him back up to, at best an above average QB. So the Chiefs said, hey, he's better than what we've got. So they snatched him up. So it was going to be Andy Reid and Alex Smith taking this team over. They still have Jamal Charles in the backfield. They still have Dwayne Bowe. Defensively, still one of the more underrated defenses in the National Football League. They have Tom Bahali. They have Derek Johnson. They have guys Eric Berry. They still have some very stout players on defense, so don't sleep on them. Jacksonville Jaguars, another team with a new head coach. Gus Bradley, former defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, you look at Gus Bradley's resume out in Seattle last season, that's why he's head coach. But he's got his work cut out for him. Of course, MJD, final year in his contract, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, he tried to hold out for more money, didn't work, got hurt. So, obviously, he knows this is a big year for him. QB-wise for the Jaguars, it's not pretty. Chad Henne and Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert's going to get the start, but if you look at the QBs that were taken in the 2011 draft, you look at Cam Newton, you look at Andy Dalton, you look at Colin Kaepernick. I mean, yeah, the Vikings took Ponder, but, they won games with him. And, yeah, and outside of the Titans, really, Blaine Gabbert is even worse than Jake Locker. Yeah, it's that bad. Their QB situation is terrible. Gus Bradley has the arduous task of turning that defense around, who had a poor pass rush. They really had a non-existent pass rush. Tyson Alou, whatever. I can't pronounce his last name. Linebacker that from Penn State that used to play for Buffalo. Posluszny. There we go. Gus Bradley has a lot of work to do. And plus, he's going to be without Justin Blackmon for 4 weeks because Butthead decided he wanted to get in more trouble. So, yeah, the NFL said, okay, sit out 4 games. Idiot. So, who am I picking? Yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs. That 2-14 season, that's not going to happen with the Chiefs again. So, they're going to get half their win total from last season today. Tampa Bay at the New York Jets. Oh, my God. You know what? I don't have enough to... I'm going to have to, compress this pick for week 1. There's a lot to talk about. That's why I'm talking this long. But for Tampa Bay, Greg Schiano looking to get Tampa Bay back on the winning track. But the big storyline there is Josh Freeman. He was a captain for that team. They took that captain tag off his jersey. They also drafted Mike Glennon from Syracuse. If you have a QB that you feel is a franchise QB, and you have questions and concerns about that QB, and you draft another QB, yeah, Freeman, it's best to say that you either play hard or you're gonna ride pine. It's that simple. They really picked up that QB to either push Josh Freeman or push him out the minute he starts slipping. Now offensively, they have Vincent Jackson, who was the big fish from the free agency period last year. They have Muscle Hamster and Doug Martin. Mike Williams. So they have offensive weapons. Defensively, it's really contingent upon Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy, he showed out. He balled out. He played up to his top 5 billing. Now it's up to guys like Adrian Claiborne and who else? Who's the other guy from Clemson? Oh, Daquan Bowers. Yes, Daquan Bowers. That front four needs to make some plays. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers front office made a big splash. They picked up Deshaun Golson from the 49ers, and they picked up the best shutdown corner of this era in Darrelle Revis, who was coming off a knee surgery. And if he gets back to his form, Revis Island's back. So because that pass defense for Tampa Bay last year sucked. So that's Tampa Bay. The New York Jets, I'm just going to go ahead and say it like this. This is Rex Ryan's last year. This is Mark Sanchez's last year as a New York Jet. There's no question about it. That team is in disarray. The Oakland Raiders are a bad team. This team is just dysfunctional as hell. They have nobody on offense. Seriously. They're going to start Geno Smith, and that concerns me because if you watch that preseason game, which was week 3, which was the dress rehearsal against the Giants, Geno Smith looked everything like he did at West Virginia, and for every good thing he did, he made 3 or 4 bad plays. And like I said, I'm really not highly sold on him. I'm really not. Everybody's saying he was going to be a Heisman Trophy winner. He was going to be a top 5 pick. He was going to be the top pick. No, he was the second. He was a QB taken in the second round. E.J. Manuel was the first round QB, not him. The Jets are in total disarray. They have no offensive firepower whatsoever. I mean, they brought in Chris Ivory from the Saints. I mean, receiver-wise, Stephen Hill, Curly, Santonio Holmes, who's looking almost flabby and sick. They have no offensive firepower. Period. Defensively, Muhammad Wilkerson is a bright spot. They picked up D. Milner from Alabama to be Revis's replacement. It's gonna be a long season for Jets fans, and they already know that. And yeah, so Tampa Bay. It's Tampa Bay. I'm picking Tampa Bay. It's that simple. Tampa Bay. Next up, Tennessee Titans at the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is Mike Munchak's make or break year. It's that simple. This team has underachieved and underperformed the last couple seasons under his reign. This is also Jake Locker's make or break year. Like I said, Jake Locker has been playing absolutely poorly. His completion percentage is at the bottom of the barrel. Of the 2011 QBs, yeah, he's looking really trash right now. Christian Ponder is saying what's up. So Chris Johnson, he's looking to get back into that CJ 2K form. They brought in Chance Warmack from Alabama to shore up that offensive line, to get him some offensive line help. If Locker can keep his head on and he can actually get that ball down the field, he's got Kenny Britt, he's got Kendall Wright, guys like that. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think Jake Locker's the one. And eventually the Titans are going to have to figure that out too. And they're going to have to spend another draft pick on a QB and hope they get it right. Pittsburgh Steelers, like I said, they lost Mike Wallace. They lost James Harrison to rival Cincinnati. Mike Wallace is a Dolphin now. So Ben Roethlisberger is going to have to make go with Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown. And Heath Miller, he's hurt. Their running back committee is horrible. Le'Veon Bell, who they picked up out of the draft this season from Michigan State, he's got a foot injury, so he's not going to be ready. It's gotten so bad that they picked up Felix Jones, who was with the Philadelphia Eagles, who they didn't want anymore, and who was with the Dallas Cowboys, who all Cowboys fans thought he was going to be the number 1 back. Wrong. So that just goes to show you how bad it is. Defensively, Polamalu is starting to lose a step, but he's still one of the big names on that defense. Lawrence Timmons, The thing is that front office can still build a defense, so you never can count the Steelers out. Having said that, I picked them to win this game. They're at home, and Roethlisberger, what you think about him personally, we ain't gonna get into that, but he's a QB that can make plays. He can keep a play alive, and he can chuck the rock. And so, Pittsburgh at home. Game of the week for Fox. Rematch of last year's divisional playoff game. The Green Bay Packers go back to Candlestick to take on the San Francisco 49ers. Now, if we all remember the last time these two teams played, this was Kaepernick's coming out party, officially. In the postseason, he made NFL history. The kid set the NFL record for most rushing yards by a QB in any game, regular season or postseason. He rushed for 181 yards. The 49ers ran Green Bay's defense to the ground. Over 300 yards rushing on the ground, almost 600 yards of total offense. Hung 45 points on them. And that's not even including the fact that they played each other week 1 last season at Green Bay, and the 49ers won with Alex Smith. So, of course, getting embarrassed like that, the Packers felt like they needed to figure out how to stop the read option. So they went to go visit, the coaches went to go visit Sumlin, at Texas A&M. I mean, they went to go visit college coaches to figure out how to stop the read option. They pick up Dayton Jones from UCLA, and he's talking like he can help. He can be one of the ones to help stop Kaepernick in this and the read option. The Packers are without Greg Jennings, who's now a Viking. Offensively, it's still on Aaron Rodgers. He's the man. He's still one of the top 3, 5, if not the top QB in the National Football League going right now. Their running back committee, they wanted to shore up that run game, so they picked up Eddie Lacy from Alabama and Jonathan Franklin from UCLA. They want a running game. They want to give Aaron Rodgers some help on the ground. Receiving-wise, they don't have Jennings, but they still have Randall Cobb. They still have James Jones. They still have Jordy Nelson. The enigmatic Jermichael Finley. Which one's going to show up? So, it's really contingent upon them. Their biggest concern is that offensive line. They lost Brian Bulaga for the season. They're having to shuffle that offensive line around, which is going to be another concern for Aaron Rodgers because he's always been taking sacks anyway. Defensively, B.J. Raji in the middle. Of course, you've got Clay Matthews. You've got Dayton Jones, who I just mentioned. So they're looking to get some speed because they lost Eric Walden, which I know they're not sad about because if you watch that Kaepernick 56-yard touchdown run, you know why. But they know after getting embarrassed like that, they had to do something about that defense. And I mean, Dom Capers, I think this is his big year. This is his last year to prove that he's still capable of being the defensive coordinator for the Packers. Having said that, the San Francisco 49ers, 5 yards short of winning the Super Bowl. They are the defending NFC champions. This is Kaepernick's first full season as the signal caller. Alex Smith is now with the Chiefs. The biggest concern for them, life without Crabtree for the first half of the season. Achilles tear, so he's going to be, they don't feel he's going to be gone for the season, but he's going to be out for an extended period of time. So like I said, Kaepernick's first full season. They bring in Anquan Bolden from Baltimore. They're going to have to rely on Kyle Williams, Quentin Patton, rookie wide receiver out of Louisiana Tech. But of course, the 49ers have one of, if not the best offensive line in the league. Not to mention their running back committee with Frank Gore, Kendall Hunter. Well, Michael James will be out with an MCL sprain. But they get it done on the ground. Jim Harbaugh brought in his Stanford ball, which is ground and pound. And you have an offensive line like the 49ers do, you can do that. Defensively, I mean, what else needs to be said? Aldon Smith, Justin Smith, the best inside linebacking duo in the league, and Navarro Bowman, and of course, the Patrick Willis. And in the secondary, to replace Deshaun Golson, they drafted Eric Reed out of LSU in the first round. So, and they brought in Nnamdi Asomugha. They brought him in for peanuts, honestly, because he knows that, his 2 seasons in Philadelphia, he needs to show and prove. He needs to get that hunger back. So he basically took a contract that wasn't guaranteed. I mean, he's basically playing to restore his pride. So, having said all that, Green Bay has the advantage all the time. The 49ers have won 2 straight. Sorry, I'm biased. I'm going with the Niners. Deal with it. So, having said that, we would go to Arizona Cardinals, St. Louis Rams. Arizona Cardinals, new head coach, Bruce Arians from the Colts. They're bringing in Carson Palmer because their QB situation was atrocious. They tried to shore up their offensive line, but their number 1 pick broke his leg. He's out for the season. Running back wise, they're in trouble. But like I said, they brought in a new QB in Carson Palmer, who at Oakland threw for 4,000 yards, even though that team was trash. So Larry Fitzgerald is excited with glee because he has a real QB finally again. And you look at Floyd from the kid out of Notre Dame. So it's not like Carson Palmer doesn't have weapons on the outside. Defensively, you still have one of the more underrated defenses in the league with the Cardinals. Yeah, they fell apart after week 5 on, but they do have a stout defense. Don't sleep on them. They can run a 3-4 just as well as anybody. St. Louis Rams, Jeff Fisher turned that team around, basically. That team was the laughing stock, the bottom of the barrel. They went 4-1-1 in the NFC West that has the 49ers and Seahawks. They went 2-1-1 against the 49ers and Seahawks, who are both being picked and pegged as Super Bowl contenders. So for the Rams officially, for Sam Bradford officially, mind you, this is a make or break year for him. Everybody's been apologizing for him, saying he hasn't had the help, he hasn't had the resources, he hasn't had the weapons. They went out and got Tavon Austin. They went out and got his teammate, roommate, Stedman Bailey from West Virginia as well. They picked up Alec Ogletree from Georgia. They want to build a contender. Alec Ogletree is linebacker. So for Sam Bradford, picking up Bailey and Tavon Austin, Jared Cook, he has weapons. So if he has one of those kind of mediocre seasons again, it's on him. Defensively, this league, the St. Louis Rams, they led the league in sacks last year. With Chris Long, you guys like Chris Long getting his pass rush on. I mean, geez. And then Howie Long has 2 of his sons in the NFL now. That man is not going to go hungry for money ever. But secondary-wise, they picked up Janoris Jenkins, who basically played all sorts of incredible. Cortland Finnegan, who was familiar with Jeff Fisher from his time at Tennessee. They picked up T.J. McDonald, safety from USC, who they let Craig Dahl go, who's with the 49ers now. And like I said, the aforementioned Alec Ogletree. So they're looking to build a young defense. They're looking to build a defense that can compete and contend, because they are a trendy dark horse pick for making the playoffs. But they know they've got their work cut out for them, knowing that the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers still reside in that division. So in this game, I got to go with the Rams at home. They played dangerous at home. And if you watched them, you know. Sunday night, New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys. Ah, yes. Now, something's got to give in this game. Because for the Dallas Cowboys, they've never lost to the New York Giants in week 1 of the NFL season. In an opening game, in an opening week, when the Giants and Cowboys play each other, week 1, Dallas has never lost. However, they are at Dallas, and they are at that new stadium, that plush Jerry World AT&T Stadium. The Giants are 4-0 in that stadium. Eli Manning has not taken a loss since that stadium opened. So it's going to be either Dallas' streak ends or the Giants' streak ends there. For the Giants, it's all about Eli. Eli. David Wilson, Hakeem Nicks, Victor Cruz. Defensively, I think the best front 4 in the NFL. The Giants have that. That pass rush. Justin Tuck, Jason Pierre-Paul. I can go further. Now, granted, they got some work cut out for them in the linebacker and secondary core, but that pass rush is still stout. For the Cowboys, what more can be said? This is Romo's big year. $100 million contract. Yeah, making that big money now. How he got $100 million off of one division title and one playoff victory? I'm in the wrong field, folks. But Des Bryant, if he can keep his head together, big year for him. Big year. DeMarco Murray has to stay healthy. All Cowboys fans, you will hear them say, if these players stay healthy. They're right. They got to stay healthy. If they can't stay healthy, then tough break. But, yeah, this is Jason Garrett's hot seat year, too. So, having said that, who am I picking? Giants. I like Eli's chances still at Jerry World. I just don't see him losing this game there. I mean, you can lose this game, but the Cowboys have to blow them out. They have to get on top of them quick. 3 quick touchdowns. Do not let this game hang close. Because if it does, this is Eli's game. And like I said, it's going to be a close game, but I think the Giants will win it. Monday Nighters. 2 Monday night games. You have the Eagles at the Redskins. Philadelphia Eagles. New era, new regime. Andy Reid gone. Bring in Chip Kelly from Oregon. And he wants to run that fast up-tempo offense that he ran at Oregon. So now Michael Vick is going to be heading up this fast, old-school quack attack, so to speak. So you have Michael Vick. Jeremy Maclin's out for the season, so you've got Deshaun Jackson. You've got Brent Selleck. In the backfield, you've got Shady McCoy, one of the top 5 backs in the league. Got Bryce Brown backing him up. Defensively, that's going to be the concern there. Because, I mean, they had a very poor defense. I mean, they let Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie go. They let Nnamdi Asomugha go. So they're bringing in a brand new secondary. Linebacker-wise, DeMeco Ryans, they're hoping he steps up. I mean, yeah, fast-paced offense, but that defense is a concern. On the other hand, you have the Redskins with the reigning Rookie of the Year, RG3. Now, the biggest concern that everybody's saying is his knee, RG knee. Will he stay healthy? People got to understand, he took a freak hit by Haloti Ngata. It wasn't like he just crumbled on his own by his own admission. But the thing is, you have RG3, you have Alfred Morris, who was the other rookie that was a big name player for the Redskins, and you have guys like Pierre Garçon, Santana Moss is still there, Fred Davis. Defensively, they're healthy again, and this is a big thing for the Redskins and their fans. Arakpo and Kerrigan are back, and they're healthy. That's a big sign. I gotta go with the Redskins. I'm picking the Redskins, folks. They're at home too. So, having said that, final game of the Week 1 regular season, you have the San Diego Chargers at home versus the Houston Texans. Houston Texans, they know. They've been trendy picks for years to make the postseason. Now they're trendy picks to win the conference, if not win the Super Bowl. They're not going to do it with Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub, when they're winning, when they're front running, yeah, you want him as your QB. But he's not the one. He folds. You need a QB that can rise to the occasion, that can step up. Granted, they have a stout 1-2 punch in Arian Foster and Ben Tate. They have Andre Johnson. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins, receiver out of Clemson, hoping he can be the number 2 receiver that they so desperately needed. They have Owen Daniels. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league, too. Defensively, J.J. Watt, the reigning defensive MVP. This kid is a beast, a monster, and I said he was going to be that when he got drafted. J.J. Watt, Brian Cushing, Connor Barwin. I mean, they have some defensive firepower, straight up. They need that defense to step it up big time now. They need them more than ever. They need Schaub to finally take the next step and quit just being a serviceable quarterback and be a next-level quarterback. San Diego, new era. Mike McCoy. Out Norv Turner and Mike McCoy, former offensive coordinator, Denver Broncos. New era, new regime, same old problems. Injuries all over the receiving corps. Spent big money on Robert Meacham. Failed. He's back in New Orleans. Denario Alexander, torn ACL. I mean, you have receivers that are just going down, dropping like flies. Then, of course, that offensive line still is patchwork, and Phillip Rivers is still slinging interceptions. Mike McCoy's got to fix that offense in a hurry. And Ryan Matthews, he's been one of my disappointments. I thought this kid was going to be something big. He can't stay healthy. He has fumbleitis. Defensively, they have Eric Weddle, who is probably the best safety in the NFL. That's not going to be enough. Houston Texans, folks. And there are my picks for week 1. Sorry so long. I know you want to get ready to watch pregame shows and you want to watch your games and get ready for all that. So I apologize, but there was a lot to talk about because it's the very first week. Tune in next week or tune in Wednesday, if not Thursday afternoon, when I give you my pick for the Thursday night game between the Jets and Patriots. So, till then, Adrian Mason, out.